History is at the core of the neoclassical curriculum. So give me 3 minutes to get on my history soapbox. It's obviously something I feel strongly about. In most classrooms, I'm not talking about any of your classrooms, in most other classrooms, the way that history is studied is you do social studies in first grade, and I can't think of a more boring thing to do in first grade than social studies. You do social studies, and then you do American history, and then you do American history, and then you do American history, and then you do state history, and if you're in Texas, you do 2 years of state history. Yeah. And then you might do world history, and then you usually do American history again in high school, and then you might possibly get something called Asian history, which isn't either American history or world history, just this sort of weird category that hangs out there. And the result is that if you go through this type of history education, and most of you probably did, you end up with a not too shabby understanding of American history, but America is like America's this big rubber ball floating through space, and other balls bounce off of it. Asia does this sometimes, and European history does this sometimes, but none of those other rubber balls bouncing off of us affect us or change our trajectory. We don't really have to pay much attention to them unless we have to shoot at them. And it just gives us this incredibly distorted view of our place in the world and the impact that other countries have on us. You know, I taught American literature at the College of William and Mary for years, and my freshmen who had been through these, nice private schools in Northern Virginia were astounded to learn that Benjamin Franklin went to France. They're like, why would you do that? Most of them had heard about the French Revolution, but they learned about it in their world history class, and it didn't have anything to do with the American history that they learned over here. So, it has been my ongoing quest to try to convince history teachers, particularly in middle grades and high school, to teach by era and not by region. What's going on all around the world in the 11th century, in the 12th century, in the 13th century, in the 14th century. Let's treat history like the story of all people and how they relate to each other, rather than separating off into American history, world history, and whatever other history you break those down into. Most people graduate from high school really not liking history, and it's because if you teach history by country, you once again get stuck in this sort of grammar stage way of doing it. You can't ask the really meaningful questions. You can't ask why questions if you can't go outside the borders of the United States in order to answer that why question. So you get stuck in this same pattern of absorbing information and spitting the facts back out. You never get beyond the grammar stage, and that's boring. By the time you get into high school, you shouldn't be doing that anymore. So that is my history at the core of the classical curriculum, ideally studied by era and not by country speech.